Multnomah County's longest-serving district attorney, Mike Schrunk, has died. He led the district attorney's office for 32 years, from 1981 through 2012. He's remembered for many things, including starting a drug court for Multnomah County. At the time, it was only the second in the country. Now, to really get to know someone, it's helpful to talk with people who knew and admired them. Today, I was able to talk with a few of the prosecutors who worked for Schrunk. Here's John Foote. He went on to be a district attorney for Clackamas County until 2021.
Mike was a role model for anyone who wanted to be a professional prosecutor. It really mattered to him how you behaved and how you did things. And what really mattered to him was your judgment as a prosecutor. Mike believed in the rule of law, and he expected his prosecutors to follow it. He talked about it wasn't just not doing something that was inappropriate, it was even not getting near the appearance of impropriety. And we knew that. And I carried that with me my whole career.
Mike Schrunk grew up in a political family here in Portland. His father was Portland mayor at one point. But those who worked for him and with him said Mike Schrunk was careful to keep political leanings out of his decisions.
He didn't hew one particular political philosophy. His approach was, we enforce the law. And we want to find justice if we can. Mike very quietly helped empower the crime victims movement in the 80s. He never got any credit for it, but he really was instrumental through Norm Frank and John Bradley. And the crime victims changed Oregon's criminal justice system. And as a result, violent crime went down to a 50-year low about 8 years ago.
Mike Schrunk did not appear on camera all that often, but when he did, it was important. Here's a clip from him in 2003 when the jails were so full and the budget so tight that a man arrested 17 times for stealing cars could not be put in jail. It seemed to almost physically pain Schrunk to talk about it.
We've tried to plead down as many cases as we can. This is horrible, some of the plea offers that we've been negotiating. And we've also, those that we just can't stomach, we've set over with the court's permission until the July.
He was saying until the July budget starts again. So you kind of get a sense there for him. We also reached Rod Underhill while he was out of town, which is why the video you're about to see is a little bit shaky. He worked for Schrunk for 25 years before becoming the Multnomah County District Attorney himself. He's since retired. He said Schrunk led by example and never forgot that both victims and the accused are humans.
I think that Mike would appreciate being recognized for his approach to public safety in our community, his approach including compassion, empathy for those individuals that we worked with and that were impacted by the public safety system, whether they be victims of crime, which were very important to him, and treating folks who were victim of crime, treating them well and with compassion and empathy, as I mentioned, but also those individuals who were brought with charges that were brought against them relative to conduct in our community.
Mike Schrunk hired and trained a number of top prosecutors and professionals. Another one is Eric Bergstrom, who worked for Schrunk for 15 years before serving as a judge for 17 years.
Well, Mike was a great boss, a consummate leader. Mike had a kind of a strong moral integrity that was kind of like a North Star for the office. And he imbued in all of us this kind of the saying you've probably heard, do the right thing for the right reasons. And he really meant it. He also was very involved in the community. Everybody seemed to know him wherever you'd go. And he had a great sense of community. He never wanted the spotlight for himself. And he almost kind of encouraged his DAs to do the same thing. He would send us to different community meetings to deal with different things, but he would always say, lead from the back of the room. And that was his way of saying, if we get kind of what we're after at a meeting, don't take the credit, let somebody else take the credit, as long as we kind of we accomplish what we're doing.
I asked Bergstrom if he had a favorite story involving Mike Schrunk. He told me the office was always applying for grants so that they could do whatever they wanted despite their tight budgets. After the grant was up, then they would travel around and explain what they did with the money. One of his favorite memories is traveling with Schrunk to Las Vegas for one of those talks where everyone looked forward to hearing not him, but Mike Schrunk.
We got a grant to do a racketeering case on a gang, and we're going to Vegas, and they really wanted Mike to come talk. And they said we had 2 hours for the talk. So I met with Judy Phelan, who was his first assistant, or his kind of executive assistant. And I said, so when do I get together with Mike to go over our speech? And she goes, oh, that's never going to happen. Mike won't do that. You're going to have to just do it yourself. And I said, well, it's a 2-hour speech. How long do I make my portion? She goes, well, just make a 2-hour speech and then just cut it down by however long Mike talks. And so I said, okay. So I prepare, this is back when we had slides, and so I prepare this speech. I don't even fly with Mike. He just meets me in the room like 5 minutes before we're to go on. Mike talks for maybe 5 minutes and then turns it over to me. And so I speak for, an hour and 55 minutes. We get the reviews, people write reviews of the talk. All of them said how great Mike was. How much they love Mike Schrunk. He was a tough act to follow, literally.
They all said they're going to miss him a lot. I interacted with Mike Schrunk several times while I was a young reporter here. I remember one time running across the street in the middle of the block to ask him a question in front of the courthouse. He was friendly and then suggested it'd be a good idea to not jaywalk in front of him again. So I didn't, not in front of him anyway. I also remember him from the Lloyd Athletic Club in Northeast Portland. I used to work out there and would sometimes be in the locker room as Mike and his buddy Answer Haggerty, now a senior federal judge, would have just finished a handball or racquetball game. I'll never forget the joy they had with each other, laughing and teasing like they were little kids who just came off the playground. It was a great example and a reminder to me you can have a very serious job and still have a great time with your buddy. Mike Schrunk was 80 years old.